This episode of the Creep Street Podcast is brought to you by Martini Coffee Roasters. You know, people always look at me weird when I say I start off every morning with a big old martini. But then I set them straight, and I tell them I'm talking about Martini Coffee Roasters coffee. A delicious coffee made by the Martini family. They roast their coffee using a traditional method of sight and sound to roast those little babies to perfection. And they also sell green coffee beans for those home roasters out there. And right now, fans of the Creep Street Podcast can get 20% off their entire order by using the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Once again, for 20% off your order, use the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Martini Coffee Roasters, the perfect coffee to keep you creeps caffeinated.
You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, this is Maureen Bogey.
And this is Dylan Hackworth.
And you are listening to the Creep Street Podcast.
Oh, you have arrived.
You have arrived. You have made it. Your journey is complete. You have arrived at your destination, at your destiny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like the sound of that. Kick your shoes off. Come on in and put your feet up. Relax.
Come on, you're home, baby. It's home.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are so happy to have you here with us. We are so grateful for you listening, and we just can't wait for a fantastic episode here. We encourage you to like, rate, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a family member.
Tell a freak.
Tell a freak of the week, okay? You know what I'm saying? Find that creep in your life that you know, and let that creeps know that they've got some content coming their way.
Oh, yeah. Let them know it's waiting for them.
Exactly. You also can follow us on Instagram at Creep Street Podcast, Twitter at Creep Street Pod.
Yes.
We have a Facebook page, we have a TikTok, and on our Facebook page, we have a subgroup called Citizens of the Milky Way. Anyone is welcome to check that out. We highly recommend that you do, but that's not it. That's not all. Yeah, no. We have a Patreon for those who are looking for some extra bonus content, for those that this one episode a week is just not enough for you. It's not scratching that itch.
Oh my gosh, it can't. You're insatiable.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing to be ashamed of with that, because we have the solution, and it's at patreon.com/creepstreetpodcast.
Oh yes.
There we have some fantastic bonus content ranging from creepypasta recordings all the way up to full bonus episodes.
Oh yes.
And anything and everything in between. My gosh, we've done so many fun things. We've done spoiler casts of different movies or TV shows. We've ranked our favorites of certain franchises.
Oh yeah.
We've done movie commentary. I mean, we've done it all over there. So just feel free to check that out. Patreon.com/creepstreetpodcast.
Oh yes.
Now, Dylan, last week we kind of slammed him with a classic haunted house.
Oh yeah, the haunting of the ancient Ram Inn. Just your classic bump in the night. You know, there's different kinds of like haunting stories.
Right.
There's haunting stories that have like a narrative, and then haunting stories that are just kind of a general, this is what happens at this place. Kind of like Waverly Hills. Ancient Ram Inn is like that. Soon I want to do one with a narrative. Maybe we got to do a Ned and Lorraine soon.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm thinking maybe we got to do Enfield Poltergeist. If
Yes.
that sounds good to anyone, please let us know, because maybe that'll be an episode coming up soon.
Absolutely. Always. But you know what? Today's episode is one that I actually had begun work on months and months ago.
Right.
And I stopped. And I even deleted my notes because it freaked me out.
I remember that.
Well, I grew a pair.
Oh gosh.
I you know what I did? I put my pants on, put my big boy britches on, and I completed the episode, and I am happy to share it with you all today.
Damn.
Today's episode is Cursed Paintings. All right, let me butter your biscuits with these sources, ghouls and gals.
Oh gosh, we don't even know what that means.
the haunted eBay painting Tales from the Internet by the YouTube channel Hwang. An article titled Mysterious, Cursed, and Haunted Paintings of the World by Brent Swanser at Mysterious Universe, and just a smattering of Wikipedia when I needed it. Not too much, but I needed it just for like little background references.
Sometimes you just need a smattering. You just need a little bit of a sprinkle on top.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit of that finishing salt.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's the little bit of
episode.
salt that brings out the sweet.
Yeah.
Well, big shout out to one of our fave listeners, the Dream James Watkins over in the UK. He actually recommended this topic near the beginning of the show.
Yes, I remember that.
And I'm very excited to dive into this. He actually initially suggested the very first painting we're going to talk about. And as I began looking into that, I found there's innumerable amounts of haunted paintings, and this is the ones we cover today are just a small little piece of that pie.
Oh, gosh.
You might see a cursed paintings too in the future.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm going to throw some in this month's Patreon, the March Patreon bonus. I'm going to throw some extra haunted painting stories in there. But,
love that.
Yeah. Well, we are starting off, and we're going real hard right out the gate. Up first is probably the most famous of haunted paintings, a painting called The Hands Resist Him. Now, this is by far one of the most notoriously cursed paintings.
Yes, I've definitely heard of this one before.
Now, it was created in the 1970s, but it didn't really become famous until the digital age, but I'll give you the backstory first. So, the year is 1972, and a man named Bill Stoneham is living in California with his wife, Roanne. And Stoneham, he had caught the attention of a local gallery owner named Charles Feingarten, who who owned a gallery of his own called the Feingarten Gallery. He commissioned Stoneham to create 2 pieces of art each month to be shown off at his gallery. Well, Stoneham's monthly deadline was approaching, and so he decided, just for some inspiration, he would use a photograph of himself when he was 5 years old. And, Stoneham in real life he was adopted. He never met his biological parents. And his wife had even written a poem about him the year before in 1971 about his childhood and these issues he went through. And he used his wife's poem as inspiration for the painting. In fact, he named the painting the same name as the poem, The Hands Resist Him. And here's that poem. He is of the seeing visions. His strokes reveal them, in a rush of color, of madness, of mystics. And his head is the highest center. It must confront its enemy. The hands resist him. Like the secret of his birth, his presence is the sanctum heartbeat, felt in darkness and in passion. Its sound, the sole gift to that silence. Yeah, a little bit of poetry for you on today's episode.
Yeah, some highbrow.
Getting highbrow today on Creep Street. Starting off with a little poetry. So let's start by actually describing this painting for you. Now, the painting depicts a young boy standing in front of a paneled glass door, and standing next to him is this rather horrifying figure of, I guess what you can really only describe as a life-size doll of like a young girl.
Weird.
And her eyes, where her eyes would be, are just these empty black holes.
Oh, no.
And she stands next to the boy with, just sort of this creepy, vacant look. And the boy himself is looking directly out at the painting, at the person, whoever is observing it. And on his face is this sort of stern, mistrusting look. But the creepiest part is that behind the boy, behind that paneled glass door, on the other side of this glass, it's completely dark. But from out of the darkness emerge these ghostly hands that seem to be reaching outward. And above them in the dark is, the only best way I can describe it is sort of like a crescent moon up above the hands in like the dark.
Wow.
Now, haunted or not, just looking at it, you can see why folks find it unsettling. But according to Stoneham, that was never the purpose of the painting. The boy in the painting, he says, is him. As we know, he used a photograph of himself. And that the glass panel door is supposed to represent the barrier between the waking world and the dream world. And that strange doll girl, he says, is supposed to be like a guide of some sort who would guide him through these worlds. And as for the strange hands, Stoneham had this to say. The hands were all of the possibilities. You were left with the question, are these disembodied hands? Are they dismembered, floating there in space? Or are they connected to bodies? After the painting was finished, it was, of course, displayed at the Feingarten Gallery there in Beverly Hills, and it really caught people's attention while it was there, too. It was mentioned in the Los Angeles Times by respected art critic Henry Seldis, and while at the exhibit, the painting even caught the eye of actor John Marley, and folks will know Marley most famously from The Godfather. He plays the part, he's in the beginning of the movie, he plays the part of that Hollywood producer who wakes up with the horse head in his bed.
Of course.
Well, he really liked this painting and purchased it, and after that, Stoneham sort of just forgot about the painting. But here's what's very wild. Within 1 year of buying that painting, the gallery owner, Charles Feingarten, and even art critic Henry Seldis were dead from various causes. And now actor John Marley, his death is also often associated with the painting as well. But it should be stated, Marley actually died in 1984, which was well over a decade since he got the painting.
Okay.
So who knows?
Interesting.
But Feingarten and the art critic Seldis were dead within a year. Now, for a few decades, the painting's whereabouts are pretty much unknown. But what we do know is that it resurfaced back in the year 2000, when it was found abandoned behind a brewery in California. Now, the folks who found it were an elderly couple, and the painting was in great condition, and they were like stumped as to why a piece of art in such good condition would just be abandoned in an alley somewhere. But after taking it home with them, they soon found out why.
Oh, no.
In February of 2000, the couple quickly put the art up for sale on eBay, claiming that there was something seriously wrong with this painting. The description of the ad was actually written in all caps, and this is what it read. When we received this painting, we thought it was really good art. A picker had found it abandoned behind an old brewery. At nighttime, we wondered a little why a perfectly fine painting would be discarded like that. Today, we don't. One morning, our 4.5-year-old daughter claimed that the children in the picture were fighting and came running into the room during the night. Now, I don't believe in UFOs or Elvis being alive, but my husband was alarmed. To my amusement, he set up a motion-triggered camera for the night, and after 3 nights, there were pictures. The last 2 pictures shown are from that stakeout. After seeing the boy seemingly exiting the painting under threat, we decided the painting had to go. Please judge for yourself. Before you do, please read the following warning and disclaimer. Warning: do not bid on this painting if you are susceptible to stress-related disease, faint of heart, or unfamiliar with supernatural events. By bidding on this painting, you agree to release the owners of all liability in relation to the sale or any events happening after the sale that might be contributed to this painting. This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life. However, by bidding, you agree to exclusively bid on the value of the artwork with disregard to the last 2 photos featured in the auction, and hold the owners harmless in regard to them and their impact, expressed or implied. Now that we got this out of the way, one question to you eBayers. We want our house to be blessed after the painting is gone. Does anyone know who's qualified to do that? Well, there you go.
Damn. It's really good art, apparently. They found really good art, and then it all just went south.
You're right.
Quick.
Now, this ad also mentions several warnings. Included in the ad was a photo taken by a motion capture camera, and in it, the couple claims that the doll is holding the boy hostage.
Damn. Holding the boy hostage?
With what appears to be a gun.
What
But I
the
don't really
fuck?
see it when I look at it. I don't know why some people thought that. But in addition to that, the ad warns folks not to use the painting as a computer background and did not show it to children. And as well as you can imagine, when this was posted, it became an early form of like an online sensation.
Right.
The ad soon acquired over 30,000 views and became an internet legend. But what was really creepy was the effect people claimed to experience from just seeing the painting. And not just seeing it in person either, but just seeing it online. Many reported a strange, queasy feeling and a general sense of unease. Some people even reported feeling dizzy, faint, or nauseous. Some claimed that children would run screaming out of the room when seeing it, and that babies would just instantly start crying when they were around it. Some folks who tried to download the image and print it off said their printers would just malfunction without explanation. But scariest of all, some reported that even when looking at the painting on the computer, they would hear voices and strange gusts of hot air. Some even said they blacked out for periods of time.
Wow.
Or felt something grab them with invisible hands and even tickle them in some cases.
Gross.
Some even felt like their mind was under the control of someone else. One person talked about even burning sage in their home just after seeing it on eBay. And of course, it's been cemented as a legend ever since. But wouldn't you know it, even after all that, someone was willing to buy the painting.
Oh, God, of course. Well, I gotta say, we want to go along with thinking that this painting truly is cursed.
Right, absolutely.
But if this painting wasn't cursed, the way that they described this painting and all of the lore that they've built up around this painting, they really created a seller's market for this for this item.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense that someone eventually would want to buy this thing.
Absolutely. There's always someone out there. There's always a freak out there wanting to get wild. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, someone was willing to buy it. The painting saw several bids. It was eventually sold to someone named Kim Smith of the Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Kim purchased it for a total of $1,025.
Wow.
I think when it was initially listed too, it was only like at $199.
Wow.
Which, you know, one of my sources, the video made a good point of saying if they were that eager to get rid of it, why start at even $200? But hey, who knows? But hey, the point is, it went for over $1,000. So there you go.
Wow.
About a month after buying the painting, Kim Smith was approached by a paranormal group who was just checking in to see if anything creepy had happened. And here's what Kim said. I wish I could report a bizarre happening or mind possession type of thing, but the unusual things started happening with the first email and counting. Prayers and quotes from the scriptures from a man of faith. Advice is how to cleanse my residence of this evil thing from a Native American shaman in Mississippi. Reports of people being repulsed, made physically ill, or suffering from a blackout or mind control experiences. But the gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, actually reached out to the artist himself, Bill Stoneham, to get his take on the whole hullabaloo surrounding his painting.
Yes.
And he was quite surprised at the reputation that, his artwork had garnered, and claimed that the so-called gun in the doll's hands was actually a dry cell battery with some wires, like a bundle of wires. It doesn't look like a gun to me. I also didn't know if it was a battery, but it certainly didn't look like a gun.
Mm-hmm.
As of today, the famous painting is still at the Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where it's kept in storage, and it's only been taken out for viewing a total of 6 times. And Stoneham would actually create 2 more works of art as follow-ups. The first, called Resistance at the Threshold, which depicts the same characters 40 years later. And then in 2012, he made a third called Threshold of Revelation. But apparently nothing creepy seems to be attached to these 2 paintings. Just that first one.
Wow, just the first one for some reason.
And it wasn't like he intended for it to be
No.
that way. How wild is that?
Yeah, it's not like he created it to be cursed or he cursed it himself.
Right, like that. So that's what I find interesting is there wasn't this story. He had a difficult childhood that this painting was about, but as an adult, he was
Right.
It didn't seem like he was in a suffering or anything like that. But this next painting we're going to dive into is probably the next most famous haunted painting. And this one's actually not even a painting. This is a series of paintings called The Crying Boy. This series was created back in the 1950s by an Italian artist named Bruno Amato, who also sometimes went as Giovanni Bragolin. Well, during the 50s, he created over 65 portraits of crying Italian orphans. This was, post-World War II. It was a way of, capturing the essence of the,
Right.
the sadness and all that stuff that would go, as you can imagine.
Yes.
But he made a living selling these portraits to tourists who would visit Italy. In fact, they were a big hit in England and went on to become the most mass-produced series of art in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, what's strange is the paintings didn't become known for being creepy until decades later in 1985. Now, this is quite strange. Firefighters had begun to notice that when they would respond to a fire, houses that had one of these paintings in them, the houses, would be completely destroyed, but the paintings would be untouched.
Oh, no.
They would always be found lying face down in the ash and the rubble, but were unharmed.
Oh, fuck.
There was over 50 occasions when a house burned down with one of these paintings in it, only for the painting to be found not harmed.
I mean, come on, 50 times? That's more than just a coincidence.
And from what I can understand, these aren't even originals. These are...
Right, like prints.
Just prints of these things.
Right.
I think, from what I can tell. And what's strange is that homes that did have one of these paintings were inexplicably, after investigations by fire department and stuff, were prone to risks of fire, more prone than the usual house. Many psychics would go on to say that the paintings were haunted by the ghosts of the orphans that died during World War II. But a story about the series began circulating, starting from a British tabloid. There was an article in the British tabloid The Sun in which they claimed that the paintings themselves were resistant to flames, and they even organized mass burnings of the painting across the UK.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Wild. And here's my thing, make the art you want, but who gets up and is like, God, you know what I want to do today? I want to paint children crying.
Right. And who wakes up one day and is like, you know what this room really needs? Is a picture of a child I don't know weeping.
Yeah.
But also, I'm shocked to hear that there were organized burnings of these paintings.
Yeah.
It wasn't just this kind of offhanded thing where a few people had issues. It's it was so prevalent that people got together to burn their paintings.
Well, and also, they even claim that there's video of some of these burning sessions where the paintings appear to be resistant to fire, but who knows? And the people have also theorized, especially with the original paintings, there was maybe a certain kind of varnish that was used or whatever.
Or some, yeah.
Even though I think varnish is flammable, but some that may have made them just naturally resistant anyway, but who knows?
Right.
Now, as you can imagine, hotels, being the breeding ground for hauntings that they are, it's no surprise many hotels have haunted paintings within them.
I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Well,
doesn't it?
It does. It does. Well, we're going to discuss a couple of those haunted paintings. The first one can be found at the Hotel Galvez down in Galveston, Texas. And inside that hotel hangs a portrait of a man named Bernardo de Galvez, who was a leader in the Spanish military who actually assisted the American military during the American Revolution.
Okay, pop off, King.
Well, Galvez passed away way back in 1786, but many folks say his spirit resides in that portrait. Guests and employees alike at the hotel report all sorts of strange happenings, such as cold spots that will randomly appear in the vicinity of the painting, as well as just a general sense of unease while around it. And folks claim that every now and then, the portrait's eyes watch you as you walk by and up the stairs. Now, that's nothing new. That's Scooby-Doo shit.
Right.
And there's actually, there are reasons why it sometimes looks like painting's eyes are watching you.
Right.
There's reasons for that, like optical reasons. But this isn't just, doesn't it look like that painting's eyes follow you?
Right.
This is it apparently appears to, you don't see it do it, but in order to still be looking at you, it would have to shift body position.
Oh God, that's so creepy.
To be able to keep its eyes on you. Now, you don't actually see it do it, but you would look back and it's moved slightly.
Just enough,
Right. Sort of it makes me think of the Weeping Angels, Doctor Who,
Yeah.
They don't move when you look at them. That sort of thing.
Yes.
The painting also apparently does not like to be photographed either. Any photo taken without permission is said to come out blurry and out of focus.
Oh, damn. Okay, you need to ask.
Yeah. Or there'll be a strange fog in the photo, kind of blocking out the portrait that obviously wasn't there when they took a photo. Orbs have been seen, shit like that. Mm-hmm. And the next haunted hotel painting is actually also located in the state of Texas.
Oh, the great state of Texas, baby.
Down in Austin, Texas. There is the Driscoll Hotel, which is actually a famously haunted hotel in its own right.
Yes.
And will probably get its own episode on its own. But of all the hauntings going on in there, there's also apparently a haunted painting. And this one's called Love Letters. Once again, you'll notice a theme here. It's a portrait of a young girl, children for some reason, dressed in a gown of some kind, a dress, holding a bouquet of flowers with a smile on her face. At first glance, it's like any portrait you would expect to see anywhere.
Right.
Obviously, knowing the creepy stories around it makes it creepy, but if you didn't know that, it would just look like
It's very unremarkable.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just a nice portrait. Many claim that the little girl in the painting is inhabited by the spirit of another girl named Samantha Houston. She was 4 years old. She was the daughter of a U.S. senator. And while staying at the hotel with her father, the young Samantha Houston, like I said, only 4 years old, tragically died when chasing a ball she dropped and fell down a flight of stairs.
Oh, God.
Now, both guests and employees, much like the painting in Galveston, will say that it apparently watches you when you walk by, but it goes even further. Many claim that she will also change positions in order to keep her eyes on you. And of course, folks who look at it will feel dizzy, nauseous, on edge. But keep in mind, this painting is not a portrait of Samantha Houston, that girl.
Oh, it's not.
It's not. But folks, it's just like a who knows if it was a real girl or just something the artist conjured. But many believe that the spirit of Samantha Houston took up residence in that painting. Interesting there.
Yeah.
Another strange theme, like we said, and this next one concerns a portrait that has a kid in it where the focus is a child. A lot of these, there's a child in it. What's with children?
I mean, what's just with children and the paranormal in general, you know?
Exactly, because they're more, as we know, more open to it. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like. So
I just feel like maybe that's just why it transfers over with this too, possibly. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, we don't know that it's not.
Yeah, who knows? Now, this next painting is by a very well-known painter, Edvard Munch. Everyone, you would know it the second you see it. Is most famously a painting called The Scream, is what he's most known for. It's that one where it looks, they're doing the Macaulay Culkin, Kevin McAllister Scream, and it was used as inspiration for the Ghostface Killer mask in the Scream movies. It's one of those, we've all seen it, and even if you don't know the artist's name, you would know that painting the second you saw it. It's
exactly.
Well, he had another painting, a cursed painting apparently, the one we're talking about.
Oh,
called The Dead Mother. What a title, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Sounds like Oscar bait to me.
It sure does.
It sounds like something like if I wanted to win an Oscar, I'd do a movie called The Dead Mother.
Right. And this is painting version of that.
Right. Well, Munch had a pretty awful upbringing as a child. His father was apparently an abusive religious fanatic, and his mother died of tuberculosis when he was only 5 years old. And it seems the Dead Mother painting is sort of an expression of that experience. In the painting, it's a young child, I think it looks like a young girl, and she has her hands over her ears and a look of shock on her face. And behind her is a bed, and in it, the gray body of who we assume is the dead mother. I think there's also, like, in the background, there's, like, some other people, like, figures standing there, but they're not really defined. The focus is on the child, and then the next focus is kind of on that body. And, you know, the expression on the child's face is, you know, one of shock and, you know, like as if her mother just died. Now, Munch himself described the painting saying, "Sickness, madness, and death were the black angels who watched over his cradle." I think meaning him.
Right.
Folks who have owned the painting or had the painting in their residence have reported what you'd expect. The child's eyes moving and watching them, and even the sound of the dead mother coughing and rustling in her bedsheets.
Ooh.
But creepiest of all, folks have claimed that they'll take their eyes off the painting one moment, only to turn around and see that the girl has left the painting entirely.
Oh, I hate that.
As if she hopped down and is in the house.
Yeah, she's somewhere else.
And then they'll turn back a little later and she's back where she was.
Wow, that's some Harry Potter shit.
I know, right? Very much so. It's like, you know, what's the password? Oh, so that's creepy. Can she leave the painting?
And if she does leave the painting, where is she going?
Exactly.
Is she, like you said, it's somewhere in the house. Can she do anything now that she is in the house?
Right, absolutely.
Or is she somewhere else altogether?
Right. Ooh, that's freaky. Now, this next painting, even the name is freaky. It's called The Anguished Man, and this story was made public by a man named Sean Robinson, who claimed that this freaky painting was kept locked away in his grandmother's attic for over 25 years. His grandmother kept it locked away on purpose as she claimed that it was haunted. And just to describe this painting to you, it's sort of like, it's like this blue background of varying shades, and then in the foreground is this man painted in or like at least the figure of a man or a person, painted in the colors of like red, orange, yellow, and this person appears to be screaming. And Sean, you know, it's just not a pleasant photo in general. Sean's grandmother claimed that the artist who made the painting mixed his own blood into the paint.
Oh, come on.
And then committed suicide immediately afterward.
Oof.
She said when looking at the painting, one may even hear the sound of screaming or crying and the occasional shadow person. is said to be seen spotted in the area of the painting.
Oh, God.
Prompting Sean's grandmother to believe that it was the painter himself haunting the painting. When Sean's grandmother passed away in 2010, he ended up inheriting this freaky painting, and the weird stuff started happening immediately. It was like poltergeist activity just suddenly exploded in their house. Sean's son was pushed down a flight of stairs by an unseen force, and his wife would report the feeling of someone stroking her hair.
Ew.
They began to hear those sounds of screaming and crying that his grandmother had talked about, and they would even see occasionally that tall shadow figure lurking about by the painting or in the corner of their eye. Not to mention that general feeling of dizziness and anxiety when looking at it. But the painting started to gain fame when Sean decided to keep a camera pointed on it to hopefully catch any of the strange stuff that was supposedly happening. He would upload what he got on YouTube. Some of the strange things included were the painting suddenly falling over, doors opening and slamming, and there was even times when it appeared as though smoke was coming off of the painting. It makes me think of, remember in The Conjuring 2, Patrick Wilson is like painting, which apparently in real life Ed Warren was like a painter. He liked to paint and shit.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's right.
And there's that like moment where he like shows Lorraine, yeah, I just finished this painting.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, it was something in my dream. And he talks about it. It was like, and it's the most, it's the painting of the nun.
Yeah.
And it's the most fucking
horrifying
painting. And he talks like, yeah, it just kind of came to me. And it's like the most nonchalant, like, what the fuck do you mean it just came to you?
Right.
Yeah, let's hang this in my office. Well, this next painting was actually a photograph first that was then recreated as a painting. Back in the mid-1990s, there was an artist who, my source, they only name her as Laura P. She had managed to make a steady living taking photos and finding photographs and then recreating them as paintings, which is, actually a great idea. People might come to her with a cherished photo and she would adapt it into a painting for them, or a landscape, whatever, you name it.
Right.
Well, Laura came across a photo one day that caught her eye. It was a photo by a man, he was a commercial photographer named James Kidd. Now, there was something rather interesting about this photo that the photographer had not intended. Well, in the photo, in the kind of the focus of it is this rusty old wagon, and it's on this like farmyard in the country, and behind it's this old barn. Nothing out of the ordinary, but standing next to the wagon is what appears to be a ghost.
Oh.
Sort of a wispy, translucent figure standing, politely with its hands behind its back, except it doesn't appear to have a head.
Oh.
And James Kidd, the photographer, said when he had no idea what the figure was, because when he took the photo, he didn't see it. He was just taking a nice photo of this, country background, Well, for reasons that Laura couldn't explain, she was just drawn to this photo for some reason, and she wanted to turn it into a painting, which is what she did, specifically a 16 by 20-inch oil on canvas. But according to Laura, the moment she began working on it, she was overcome with a sense of fear and dread. It was so bad that she didn't even want to finish the painting, but she marched on and completed it, and even named it Painting of a Headless Man, and it went on to hang in a local office. Well, immediately when the painting came to the office and was hung on the wall, employees there were creeped out by it. They reported strange things going on, like papers and objects would go missing and then reappear in strange places where they just wouldn't be. Even the painting itself would seem to move. It would constantly be crooked. And then the moment, someone would straighten it, they'd turn around and then they'd turn back and it would be crooked again.
Oh, God.
It only lasted in this office for 3 days until Laura had to take it back. Soon after, Laura and her husband moved, but even when they did, all that weird shit seemed to move with them. Once again, a lot of this stuff sounds very poltergeist-like. There would be strange knocking and banging noises and the sound of footsteps. And there was even strange noises that seemed to emanate from the painting as well. And everything else that happened are things we've talked about on this show before. Objects move by themselves. On one occasion, a salt shaker that was tipped over turned itself back upright. The roof began to leak, but yet when they would have a professional come out to look at it, they couldn't find anything wrong. And dogs would suddenly begin growling and staring at something that no one else could see.
Oh, God. And if you own a pet, just that is the last thing that you want to experience.
It's the worst. It's the fucking worst. And there was one particular incident when Laura was having a glass of water, and as she was drinking, the glass just suddenly shattered. But as she was cleaning up the pieces, there was a large jagged piece that just was missing.
Oh.
Like, like she was glad. She's like, there's clearly like a shard that's just gone, like a big jagged piece.
Oh God! So does this thing have this
Right.
shard of glass now? Is going to use it as a weapon?
Ugh, freaky. Laura confided to a friend about what was going on in the house, but her friend apparently thought it was ridiculous. And when Laura showed her the painting, the source says she laughed out loud. But that night when her friend returned home, her friend in her house had this huge old heavy clock that had hung on her wall for like over 40 years. And suddenly it just fell and smashed to bits on the floor the moment she walked in the door. Another friend of Laura's took photographs of the painting, and when he laid them out to observe them at home, he caught the corner of his eye what appeared to be a specter, and he immediately disposed of all the photos he had taken. And Laura has actually expressed that she wishes she never made the painting and has even considered destroying it as well.
Dang.
Yeah.
And I know I would just be like, yeah, let's destroy the damn thing.
I know, right?
But I guess I know it's hard, and it's, I don't know. Maybe
Right.
you'd wonder if it, you don't even know if that would help the situation, I don't know.
Exactly. Well, the last painting we're going to talk about actually hangs in a very prestigious location. The painting in question is called Man Purposes, God Disposes by Sir Edwin Landseer. The painting depicts the wreckage of a very famous story concerning an Arctic expedition. Now, you'll remember, we watched that show. It was on AMC.
Yes.
The Terror.
Yes, that was a great show. We recommend that show.
Yes, the two ships, it was the RMS Erebus and the RMS Terror. They were on an expedition in the 1840s, and their ships got stuck in the ice, and eventually, all the crews would perish. In the painting, it depicts the ship wreckage with two polar bears eating the bodies of the crew. It's kind of like a rather abrasive painting.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that this painting hangs in the gallery of the Royal Holloway College at the University of London.
Oh.
Now, in this gallery where it hangs, it also happens to be a place where students will often go to take their tests and exams. And many claim that the paintings will cause the students to fail their exams and even drive them mad. It's apparently common that the painting will be covered while they're taking tests. They'll usually hang a Union Jack flag or just something to cover it while students take their quizzes. And it's said that at one time, a student was driven mad by the painting, and she stood up and took her own life right there in the class in front of everyone.
Oh my God.
Awful. That
Yeah.
is so weird.
Yeah, hearing about these haunted paintings and pictures and photos and everything, for whatever reason, it really just it sticks with me as something that's so scary. I think because it's so much you don't have control over. It's if you just, some of these, even if you just see it,
Right.
which you can't really control what you see a lot of the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's even if you just see this thing, all of these terrible things can happen to you. And just knowing that just being in the same atmosphere as something else, or in the
Right.
same general vicinity as something else, can have that kind of effect on you. Just the thought of that really, really is creepy to me.
It's almost like the paranormal version of having something radioactive. It's
Yeah.
you bring something radioactive into your house, or not even that, something like a poisonous mold.
Right.
It's it gets into your house, and then it makes everyone slowly sick and sick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's weird.
And it's hard to know what it really would be. I'm sure so often you're not going to think that, oh, it's because of this painting that I brought in my house.
Right. Or
so you might not know that's what was going on for a long time.
And think, how do you know that what you're even in a lot of these cases, people, they were advertised as being haunted.
Right.
Say they didn't have the courtesy of giving you that warning. You just pick something up and then you would have all this shit happen. You wouldn't even know what it's emanating from. It's
Right.
oh, it's emanating from that old vase I bought at a yard sale.
Yeah. Oh,
And you wouldn't even know, and you'd probably have it with you your whole life because you didn't know it's that fucking thing.
no. Yeah, that's just something why these stories just really get to me.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's just freaky. And I know it's so cliche, but they'll, when they say even reading about it is said to be, I just hate that.
Right,
I know it's such
know.
a cheap thing. It still gets me. I know it's so cheesy. It's remember those old things forward this message to 50 people
Yes,
or you'll have
bad luck.
right.
I'd rather not be around it.
Yeah. Ugh. Freaky stuff.
Truly. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for doing all of that research and putting together a list of spooky, and I mean spooky paintings.
Oh, and like I said, thank you. You're welcome. And like I said, that's just a small fraction of haunted objects is a genre all its own. Paintings
Right.
aside, I mean, there's all sorts of things.
Anything has the capacity to be like that.
Exactly. So it's really just its own small niche of the paranormal market.
Right.
Let me tell you about some portraits I wouldn't mind hanging on my wall.
Oh, come on.
I want to blow them up as big as I can get them. High def.
Inkjet.
I'd drain every ounce of the ink in the printer for these.
Oh, yeah.
Ghouls and Gals, the names of our top-tier Patreon subscribers. Of course, the Dream James Watkins, the Finnish Face Via Lundqvist, the Madman Marcus Hall, the Vivacious Vicky McHugh, the Tenacious Teresa Hackworth, the Heartbreak Kid Chris Hackworth, the Oh-So-Suave Sean Richardson, the British Bonebreaker Bex Martin, the Notorious Nicholas Barker, the Terrifying Taylor Lashmet, the Count of Cool Cameron Corliss, the Archduke of Attitude, Adam Archer, the Sinister Sam Kiker, the Nightmare of New Zealand, Noeline Vivilli, the Loathsome Johnny Love, the Carnivorous Kevin Bogey, the Killer Stud, Carl Staub, the Firestarter, Heather Carter, the Conqueror, Christopher Damian Damaris, the Awfully Awesome Annie, the Murderous Maggie Leach, the Sir of Sexy Sam Hackworth, and the Evil Elizabeth Riley.
Dylan, thank you so much for listing off all of those righteous names for all of us here today.
Oh, yes.
If you want to be like them, if you want to have some bonus Creep Street content, feel free to head on over to creepstreet.com/creepstreetpodcast. Also, please like, rate, subscribe, tell a friend. We're so close to 100 reviews on Spotify.
Oh, yes.
So if you wouldn't mind heading over to Spotify and just hitting us with the 5 stars there. But a 5-star anywhere that you listen is great, or a thumbs up or a like or whatever it may be.
Oh yeah.
Wherever you're listening, it really means the world, and it really helps the show grow.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
Good night and goodbye.
Goodbye.